Thank you for giving us your time, Roy.
You bet.
All right. Can you first of all kind of tell us where you're from? Are you born here? How did you get
Yes,
here?
sir.
You were born right here?
Well, I was born in Clayton,
Born in Clayton, okay.
Yep.
And what year was that?
55.
1955.
August 22nd, 55.
1955, okay. So have you lived in this area your entire
Yes, sir.
life?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Except when I went off to college.
So where did you go to college?
WT, Canyon, Texas.
Okay, WT at Canyon, Texas.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have brothers, sisters?
I did have a brother. He passed away
Okay.
in 2003. Isn't that right, Cheryl?
I think so.
Okay.
And then I have a sister that lives in Canyon, Texas.
In Canyon, Texas, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Has your family pretty much been here? Mom, dad, how did
Yes,
they
sir.
get here?
My mother's born right over here across the road. She
Okay.
was born in half dugout over there in 1924.
Okay.
And my dad come here. He rode a horseback when he was 6 years old from Carnegie, Oklahoma, with his dad and his uncle out here. And they bought a little place west of Hayden.
Okay.
And then my granddad bought horses and mules, and they drove them back to Oklahoma and sold them and got the family and shipped my grandmother and my aunt to Romare. And then my granddad and my dad and picked them up there and brought them over here in the wagon.
Okay. All right. How long have you been at this particular house?
In 1980.
1980?
Mhm.
Okay. And what exactly is it that you do as far as agricultural, farming,
We have cows and calves, and then we run yearlings.
and run your links? Okay. Do you do any agriculture at all then? As far as wheat, Milo,
No,
anything like that?
we don't have any farm ground now.
Okay,
We
nothing
don't.
as far as
No, sir.
agriculture. Okay.
No, sir.
All right. All raising livestock then.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Trying to look. First of all, excuse me. What makes this place special to you?
It's home.
Okay. Well, I guess where I want to go is there's lots of droughts and stuff like that. So, I mean, what keeps you here? What keeps you wanting to stay here when so many people leave?
I don't know better, I guess. I don't have no place to go. This is home. This is home.
Let's step back a little bit. So you said when your family arrived here, what were they doing here? Were they running cattle too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, my dad, my granddad had an Indian reservation leased over by Noble, Oklahoma, or Carnegie.
Mm-hmm.
And the Indians had made them leave, and they had sold their cattle in 1929. And so they had no country then, and they come out here. And that's when they come out here and bought this place west of Hayden.
Did they have a family here, or how did they pick this place?
Oh, they knew people here. They didn't have family here, I don't think. No.
And they were running cattle here?
And they ran cattle here. They sure did. My dad went to school at Hayden to the 11th grade, and then he went to Clayton for the 12th grade.
So they basically moved here right when the Dust Bowl, right before the Dust Bowl started.
Yeah, they did.
So did you grow up with any Dust Bowl stories?
Oh, yeah, there were some stories.
Could you share a few?
No, I guess it'd get real dark, and they'd lose their way if they didn't know where they was at. My dad said you could ride a horse or drive a wagon from here to Delhart and never open a gate during the Dust Bowl days. The fences was either blowed blowed out and laid down, or they was blowed over where you could just drive over or ride over.
Wow.
And then the government come, I don't know what year that was for sure, and bought their cattle. And they would let my dad and them boys, I don't know how old he was, but they'd let them skin them. And they'd skin them. And then they'd take the hides to Narrabisa. And they'd sell them and make a little money. My granddad let them take the car at night so that it wouldn't wear the tires as bad in the cool of the night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to.
He had a horse he called Funny Papers that he'd hook the hide. They'd stake them cows down, and that horse would pull, and they'd skin.
Okay.
And he'd help them skin them.
Okay. Now, did they get enough, I don't want to say it, did it give them enough money selling the hides and stuff? Is that kind of how they kept themselves going? Or
I think they got $2 a piece
$2 a piece? Okay.
for the hides. I think that's right. Now, I'm not sure about that, but I think that's what they got. And of course, $2 was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, that's what.
You know, and they might, I don't know how many they'd have. I don't know if they'd have 20, you know, or 30. I don't know how many they'd get before they'd go sell them.
Right. So how much of their livestock did they lose, do you know?
You know, I don't know if they killed them. They didn't kill them all, I don't think, but I want to say they killed maybe 80% of them or something.
Okay.
Dug pits and buried them.
Do you know if they ever thought about just leaving, packing up, and?
Oh, I'm sure they thought about it. My granddad always used to say that you could tell a camp where people was coming or going, and you could tell if they was coming or going. If they had big horsue prints in the ground, they was coming this way. If they had burro tracks in the ground, they was going that way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they expand their land or anything
Yes.
at the time?
Yeah. They did. Those things at it.
Scared me.
They did. Yeah. They did. They expanded a little bit, and then my dad expanded quite a bit. My granddad expanded a little bit, but it was tough. Times was tough. You know.
How were they able to do that? Since times were so tough.
Hard work, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah. You know, they worked at every job they could get. Yeah. My mother's folks, when she was in about 30, wasn't it? That they went back to Oklahoma and picked fruit.
Yeah, I remember talking about that.
They did, and then they come back to Wichita Falls and pick fruit there too.
Wow.
Yeah.
To keep the
And
place.
and they had an aunt, 2 aunts, and an uncle. You know, you had, if you filed on this land, you had to keep somebody living on it, or they'd take it away from you. So they had 2 aunts and an uncle that stayed in the houses around that they had, so that they could keep it without losing their title to it.
What about your the women in your lives? Like, so your mother, your grandmother,
I've had lots of
did they have did they have any stories about the Dust Bowl? Because you kind of talked about how it might.
Hanging a wet sheet up over the windows to keep it from smothering the kiddos. Yeah. Blow a hen up against the fence and she'd lay the same egg 10 times. That's some of the stories. I mean,
Yeah. Do you have any other ones like that? That's a good one. I haven't heard it.
Because I bet that one's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. Yeah. No, it was tough. It was really tough. My mother's born half dugout. She was right over here across the road. The house is still there that they built later on.
Wow.
Yeah. But
Is the dugout still there?
you just kinda know where it's at. Yeah.
How many people lived in that dugout?
Well, she had 2 brothers and a sister, so there was 4 kiddos and mom and dad. Yeah,
She was the baby.
she was.
She's the youngest.
Did all of them end up staying around this area? Or?
No, we had one that kind of made a career in the Army, I think, and then another one went off in the Air Force, and then her brother closest to her become a physicist at Los Alamos, over there at the labs.
Okay.
And he made a career out of that. He lived there until he retired, and then they moved down to Albuquerque, and he passed away. What's that being?
Oh, I had
6 or 8
been about
years ago.
4, 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Right home.
But he is really sharp. And then her sister lived across the creek over here, and then they went to Amarillo, and she finished up in Amarillo.
Okay.
They was rancher. She had married a rancher here.
Okay, so she was pretty much the only one that stayed around?
Yeah, mother was kind of the one that stayed. She did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That one uncle that was in the way I remembered it was the Army, and I really can't tell you. He ended up in Colorado somewhere.
Okay.
Albert was his name. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Do you know if she ever thought about leaving herself, or?
Well, I'm sure she thought
or was
about
she-
leaving.
or was
She's
she just
kind
too
of like me,
tired?
didn't have no place to go. You gotta have an address to go to. She did, she went off to college,
Did she? Where'd she go to college at?
Las Cruces.
Las Cruces.
I didn't realize she went to Las
She
Cruces.
did.
Okay.
And then she taught school over here at Amistad at the old schoolhouse over there, the old one, yeah. She taught Billy Bowles, the one
Okay.
the one you interviewed.
Jackie knows Billy real
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
She taught a bunch of them around here. The Ellises, some of the older Ellises, not Dale, but some of his older brothers, siblings, yeah. She taught over there. She did. I don't know for sure how many years, 2 or 3 or 4, while the war was going on. Yeah. My dad got out of high school, he went right straight to World War II. Yeah. He did.
So we talked a bit about your parents, so let's talk about you growing up. So when you were little, what kind of chores did you do around the house, or when did you become a rancher? I like to ask that question.
Oh, I may not have yet. Oh, you know, we thought it was hard then, but I wouldn't trade it for nothing. We chored every morning and every night. Caught the school bus. We just did. Milked the cows. We had 2 or 3 milk cows. Our milk cows were sacred. My dad thought the milk cows were sacred. He didn't mess with milk cows. He caught my brother riding them one time, and he did give him a whooping.
That's right.
And I did laugh.
Hope you didn't get caught. Probably.
I didn't get caught.
I was getting ready to say.
We had hogs. We had chickens. We'd go kill a chicken on Sunday and have it, you know.
Yeah. One thing we've
So-
never had here is chicken.
What kind of things did you do for amusement besides getting your brother in trouble?
Oh, we had horses. My dad kept us a horseback all the time. He was a firm believer that if you was a horseback, you wouldn't get in deep enough trouble. He couldn't get you out of it. If you was driving a car or something, you might get in deep trouble, but if you was a horseback, you wouldn't get in very bad trouble. And he kept us horseback all the time. Yeah, we rode every day. Every day. Yes, yeah, we did. We just worked. I mean, we worked. We did. When I was 7, we drove 2,000 and some yearlings from here to Narragansett and put them on a train.
Wow.
They have video of that somewhere.
Wow.
It's around here somewhere. There was about 20 of us. I'm gonna say 20 men, and
Wow.
there was 3 or 4 of us boys. My brother and then a neighbor kid. I think we was the only really kiddos. The rest of them was all men. But
What do you remember about that? Were you afraid? I would be afraid at 7.
part of the job.
Exciting.
Yeah.
We took a remote
Exciting.
school.
Yeah.
removed
Adventure.
the horses. When we went by Amistad, we went right in front, right down the highway. We was in the highway then. And all the kids come out of school and come up there and watched us go by.
Yeah.
You know, we had them strung out for 2 or 3 miles.
Wow.
How long did it take you?
Yeah.
We weighed all the cattle. We weighed a lot of them here because there was a set of scales here. And we weighed the rest of them at Howard Tompkins's. And then we throwed them all together and we went, and we kind of went down the highway to start with, and then we got out in Copeland's. And then we went south. We stayed east of the highway and went plumb to Narragansett. We held them up out there north and a little bit east of Narragansett, and because we couldn't pin them all at the same time, and we held them and pinned them, and the ones we pinned they loaded on the railroad cars, and then we pinned the rest of them and loaded the rest of them on there. Yeah. It was, you know, it was just a job, but it was exciting, you know. I mean, we rode around here always, but we hadn't been able to go that far. And then we drove a lot of cattle. After that, we drove a lot of cattle to Narragansett and put them on the railroad. My dad liked the railroad. We'd put cows on the railroad.
So what did he do when the railroad
Trucks.
trucks?
Had to go to trucks.
Was he sad when that changed?
You know, I don't know that he was sad. It just made it different.
Yeah.
We was I don't know that we was the last people to load cattle out at Clayton at the railroad yards, but we was one of the last ones. We have a set of scales over here, and we weighed them there, and they hauled them in trucks up there, and we put them on the,
So you were still young then, so how was it for you when that change happened?
You know, my dad he traded lots of cattle. and we handled lots of cattle. We knew truckers, you know, we just knew them. They was just part of the family. I mean, they was around us all the time. And they'd, of course, they'd leave and we'd gather more cattle, or we'd go somewhere else and gather other cattle. And they'd be back next day or two and load more cattle. They was friends. You know, I got some good friends that was truck drivers. I mean, they was good guys. Yeah. Paul Jackson, he's a good friend of mine, and he hauled cattle for my dad forever. And then he drove my dad. My dad would get tired and couldn't go, and Paul would drive him. But we was around here, those Mexicans, when we got them in, they got screw worms. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Cattle,
Okay.
not people.
Right. I got that part.
And we'd ride, rope, you know, and I was a little guy. I turned 7 that summer, so I was a little guy. But we roped them, you know, we'd doctor 40 or 50 sometimes in a day.
Right.
I'll never forget, my dad got a new trailer. We had an old car accident on an old wooden trailer. And we had a hired in here working for us. We didn't have this place. We lived at Hayden. And we left before daylight and we rode around this place and rode over there. And we probably doctored 30 or 40 of them. And it took all day. They was big cattle. And we was trotting home in the dark, and that hired hand asked my brother and I, he said, "You reckon your dad's gonna keep that trailer new forever?" He would sure like to have been used it. We could have been home a lot quicker. But we wasn't.
You would.
No.
That's how you make
We
good
did.
horses.
Yeah.
Ride them all day.
Yeah.
Do you kind of miss those days?
Oh, we still ride. We ride dang near. We don't ride every day, but you know, we ride a lot. I've got old and fat now, and I don't like to ride as far as I used to. We used to, when we played, we rode horseback. You know, we'd get together with other kids and we'd ride bareback. We just rode everywhere we went.
Have four-wheelers changed that a lot for you or no?
Oh, I don't use the four-wheeler
Yeah.
a lot. It's got its place.
Yeah.
We have a mule here that we chore with, and it's sure handy. Yeah. But when I was crippled, I got crippled about 11 years ago, and I used that some to get around. I did.
And then for branding, do you still use the horses?
Yes,
Yeah.
we still drag all of our kids. Yeah. Cheryl does the flanking. And I drag them up there too.
I
Cheryl does the
stay in the
cooking.
kitchen. I stay in the kitchen.
She's an excellent cook.
I didn't grow up on the farm, on the ranch. I grew up on the farm.
Yeah. But we still drag them just like they used to do.
What does that mean to you? Because some people have changed operations so much, but they still do that way.
You know what? We got the best neighbors in the world. I'd compare them to anybody. We got the best neighbors in the world. They come. We just had what we have
We
11,
had 13. Yeah,
11 neighbors here.
6 and 7. There was 13. Had
Yeah,
6
but that's not counting
Oh,
me.
me, yeah.
and Levi.
Oh,
There was 11 neighbors here just a while ago. Just drove off. You know, they don't expect pay, and I go back and help them. You know, we just trade work. Yeah, it's worth it all. I mean, it's really good for us. Yeah, because you can't hire that kind of help because they don't hire out. They'll come help you, but they won't hire out to you.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and that's the way we are too.
Seems like you really appreciate the community around here. That it really
The
provides.
community we have the best community in the whole wide world.
How have you seen that community change since you first, basically, since you grew up here? How does it kind of change over the time?
You know, I guess we're busier now, is all I'd say. You know, and we don't go to we used to go to people's house on Sunday and we'd eat supper with them. You know, we just don't do it no more. We're just going so fast. But I'll tell you what, we ain't got, you know, there ain't anybody around here, and Peggy can vouch for this. If you didn't call them and tell them you needed them, however far they lived away is how long it'd take them to get there. You know, we just got the best in them. They wouldn't even ask you what you needed. If you told them you needed them, they'd just start your direction. You know, and that's worth it all. It really makes it good. It makes you feel good when people show up, you know.
Sure.
And they ask you how you feel, and they look you in the eye, and they wait to see what you answer, you know. You know, it's got to where it's generic, you know, you just, how are you? And you just shake and go on. Not here. They you know, when they ask you how they are, they want to know if you are all right, you know. And that makes a difference. It does. I'm real fortunate. There's 4 of the 11 that graduated with me that's right here. there was 11 of us graduated from Amistad in '73, and 4 of us are still right here. Peggy's got a boy, Lynn.
Yeah, they saw Lynn walk
Yeah,
in.
and then Noni Tidmore, Cliff Copeland, and me.
Wow.
And they've
Yeah.
interviewed
Yeah.
Elma already,
Yeah.
and they've interviewed Clifford and Cliff and
Yeah,
Matthew.
yeah. See, so we started first grade together. Didn't have kindergarten back then, as in the olden days. And we graduated, and there's 2 or 3 more that aren't very far. Logan, there's Mary Lou's and Logan. I don't know, Peggy, you left.
David's in
He's
Lubbock.
in Lubbock, yeah. I don't know where the Connell boy is, but we've just known each other forever, and it's just like family. It is family,
So the people make this place special. What else
Yes.
makes this place special?
It's just home. I mean, it's just the way we know how to make a living, chisel out a living. We just do. We like where it's located. I mean, we don't have any big cities close, but they're close enough. We can get to one if we need it. Sometimes doctors, you need a little more. But Clayton's a nice town. Delhart's not. And we're just kind of surrounded here by. We're just kind of handy. Yeah, handy to get to. When you start home, it ain't too far usually.
What was Clayton like when you were younger?
We didn't go up there a lot. We didn't even go once a week. We'd just go periodically. I want to say once every 2 weeks or so. My dad was on the road a lot, so if we needed something, he'd call home. After we got the phones in, he'd call home. Yeah, I remember when that happened.
When did that
I was getting
happen?
ready to say, when did that happen?
In the '60s. I'm gonna say 60.
Late 60s.
When did y'all come in though?
We come in 66 and they want
And they're
Would it be a party
No
line?
phone.
Your first
Oh
phone
yes,
was a party
there was
line?
7 or 8 of them on it. Yes.
His dad was kind of instrumental in getting that telephone started because Kelly needed the phone worse than anybody.
I've often wondered what he'd have done with the cell phone.
Oh, Lance.
Oh, he'd buy cattle and he'd load trucks, and he wouldn't have a home for them. And he'd tell them truck drivers, every town you go through, call my mother, she'd be at home. And every town they'd go through, they'd stop and call her, and she'd say, "No, I don't have an address yet." He'd just send them.
Going north.
He'd just send them in a direction,
Keep it
and
going.
they'd just every town they'd come to, and he was trying to sell them
Yeah.
the whole time.
The internet. I know.
He would
And then
either
he-
have died a richer man or a poor man.
Oh,
Wow.
He always said he didn't want $1 million; he wanted 1 million friends.
Wow.
And
He said
had
it
that
was
many.
worth more than the $1 million. But finally, he'd call Mother and tell her where to send them, and then the trucks, when they'd get to the next town, they'd call her, and she'd tell them.
Did he ever send away a truck and not find a home for her?
Oh, if they'd be headed towards us here,
Okay.
and if he didn't get them sold, they'd come here.
Okay.
He knew everybody in the world, so
It sounds
he could
like
send
it.
them somewhere else. Yeah. He had a real good friend and partner in Wyoming. He sent a lot of cattle there. He'd just send them on the road. He always said the embarrassingest thing in the world was a brand inspector. They'd want to ask you where you're sending them, and he didn't have a clue. Somewhere north of here. Yeah, that's what he did. He traded a lot of stock. He stayed in Arizona a lot.
You said you went to Clayton every couple of weeks or so. What was your big
Groceries.
groceries? What was your big thing for Clayton though? What do you remember as far as excitement or?
Oh,
Anything
we'd
is-
go to the city drug and we'd get us an ice cream, a malt or whatever it was. I think they cost 10 cents. We'd drink one of them. That was a big deal for us. And it was right across the street from the grocery store. So my mother'd send us over there while she was
Get you out of her hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a while, my dad wore out 2 cars a year.
Wow.
He'd put enough miles on them that, and I remember that. He'd get one first year, or Christmas time, most of the time, and then he'd get one in the summertime. Yeah. He drove lots of miles and did lots
And
of
they
trade.
drove when they were so young. my gosh.
Yeah, you used to
They
probably
usually
drive
talk
him the time you was 7. You said
They
you was
would-
riding a horse by
Or
earlier
go
than
to
that, so-
Clovis when they're like 14 years old with a
Wow.
load of with a load of horses. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
They just sent us places where we needed to be.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
What was the range, like your father's sort of territory? It sounds
Oh,
like it was
yeah.
several states.
Oh yeah, he was forever. Sent a lot of cattle. The cattle we drove out of here sent to California, Bakersfield, California.
Wow.
He had a good friend out there that he sent a lot of cattle to. That Kansas and everywhere. Wyoming, like I say, he had a good partner in Wyoming. Jim Stevenson. He was a good friend and a good partner. But he is everywhere. Mexico, he got a lot of cattle out of Mexico. The ones we drove down there was out of Mexico. Yeah.
So you were born in the 50s. Do you remember that drought of the 50s at all as
No,
a
ma'am.
kid?
No, I don't.
Do you know how it impacted your father's operations? Did he ever talk about it?
Oh, I can't say. See, I'd have been real green.
Yeah.
I'd have been really green. The other day they was talking about that 65 was as good a year as this year.
Okay.
And I was, you know, it may have been, but it didn't mean as much to me because I was 10 years old. I mean, it was probably as good as this year. Some of the older guys was talking about it the other day. But it didn't mean as much to me, you know, yeah. The drought is really tough on us here. It's cost, you know, it costs, if you have rain, you can do lots of things in this country because it grows a lot of feed. And it's good feed. We got a good sod and good grass, you know, grandma grass and buffalo grass, good grass, yeah. Yeah. I know that there was times we'd be just covered up with cattle, and then there'd be times we wouldn't have very many, you know. My dad would sell them because we didn't have feed for them. Yeah. But we always kept a milk cow, kept a few hogs, chicken. My mother was a chicken taker, care of her. Yeah. And she took care. She pretty well took care of everything. She could give you a pretty good spanking if you needed one. And sometimes we needed one.
Did you say your grandmother took cream to the?
I rode with her to she separate that milk, and we'd haul that and eggs to Clayton, to Isaac's, and she had cream cans.
Oh, wow.
She had an old one-seated car. I can't tell you what kind it was, but we'd get those. She'd get those cream cans in that back behind the seat, and we'd haul them the eggs to town, and she'd send them to Pueblo, Colorado, I believe.
Put them on the train.
Put them on the train. The eggs went to Isaac's.
They sell them at Isaac's?
I think so.
Wow, they saw everything there.
I know.
I think they
You
did.
can't find it. You can't find. If you can't find it there, it.
It's not-
See,
it
it seems like a
exists.
lot of the family business was shipped and outshipped.
Yes, yeah.
And-
Well, they had to have somebody that could pay them, you know.
Right.
Everybody here was broke. I mean, they didn't have no money.
Now, have you kind of carried on in that same tradition?
Yes, I'm still broke, and I
Are you driving around a lot like your dad was?
don't. No, I don't.
Do you
think there's
replace
big-
2 cars a year?
No, I don't. I don't go as hard as he did. I sure don't.
What are the lessons you learned from your father about cattle ranching and
Oh,
agriculture
everything I
business?
know.
Could you give me some specifics?
Oh, that a handshake's as good as a contract, you know. He said, always keep your word and deal with people that do. And he said it makes it, you know. Oh, he done all his business on the phone. He'd call somebody and he might make, you know, all kinds of trades on the phone. Times has changed now because we have, you know, satellite and all that. Superior has a big video auction, you know, and it takes a lot of the trade out of the, you know, they do it through that, which is
Right.
great, you know. I mean, it's progress, I guess, you know. There was, I'm not going to say lots of, but a lot of people wouldn't keep their word. You know, they'd buy your cattle, and then they might not come get them. If the market went the wrong direction, they wouldn't come get them. My dad always went and got them. I sold my kids a while ago to a guy. He called me on the phone, told me what he'd give me, and I told him yes. And they're high. I mean, they're terrible high now. And we sent them to him today. I have no doubt that he won't send me a check. He never even showed up. You know, your word. We got some of the best contracts we have are verbal contracts. I've had one for 35 years.
Wow.
You know, and I have no doubt that it ain't good as one wrote down on 100 pieces of paper, and signed and notarized. And that's the thing. My dad always kept his word. If he called somebody and told them he'd give them $100 for their calves, $100 a head for their calves, and when it come time to get them, they was worth 20, he went and got them. And he might not know what he's going to do with them. That was when he sent that truck. And then we just started going. Yeah, but that's the thing. And he worked hard. He knew what a cow was thinking. You know, he could sort cows. We sorted cows. We sorted cows all over the world. I mean, all over the country. Not all over the world, but all over. We'd drive cows to roam there. Daddy leased that Castleberry place one time. You remember that, Peggy? We drove cows. He sold the cows off it. We sorted all of them and sent them to a lot of them to Arizona. And then we sorted the cows we had here and took over there. And then he was getting cows in. He'd put us, my brother and I, he'd send us over there. He had that old Bagwell place. And he'd send my brother and I with a set of cows, driving them over there. And he'd start with us. He had an old horse he called Bob. He's a bay horse. And he'd start with us. Well, he knew he wasn't going all the way. He knew somebody was going to come pick him up. And we'd get over there somewhere over there. Whoever would come by, and he'd say, "I'll be back in a little bit. You boys he'd tell us where to take them." And that old horse would work. We'd tie the reins around the saddle horn, and he'd work the back. Now he wasn't just. I mean, he'd keep them up. He really would by himself. And D and I, my brother's name was D, and we'd work the sides, and we'd get where we was going, which is over there southeast Amistad.
Right against the state line.
Yep, sure is. About 6 miles or so southeast of Amistad. And we'd turn around and we'd start home. And that old horse would trot along the side of us. If we loped, he'd lope. If we walked, he'd walk. We'd get to a gate, he'd just wait. We'd go through it. Till we get within sight of the house. And when we get within sight of the house, we had to get a hold of him, because he'd go on without us. Then we didn't want him to get in the cattle guard. There was a few cattle guards around. So we'd just trot.
Now, you were saying earlier, you were talking about a handshake and dealing with individuals. Do you prefer to deal with one-on-one individuals, or do you ever deal with like corporations? And stuff like
Nowadays you gotta deal with corporations. Okay. You know what's amazing to me is there might be somebody running a feed yard that's a multi-million-dollar establishment, and you'll sell them a load or 2 or 3 or 4 loads of cattle, and they can't write you a check for the cattle. They got to send it to corporate office. Corporate office has to write you a check and mail it back to you. Yeah, don't start me on that, because I got a big old soapbox.
Well, we do want to know how cattle ranching's changed for you in your lifetime.
Well,
Which is where I was reading that one.
So would you mind?
And Cheryl gives me heck about my cake feeder. She said the Flintstones. But I can tell you within a pound how much cake I feed them. You know, I mean, I've got a big fancy one over there. It's not brand new anymore, but I don't use it very much because of cake. You know, we use a lot of cake. We don't feed a lot of hay in this country, but we do feed some. But the technology's just changed. And the pickups are so much nicer, and you got power steering, and the window roller up, or you can push a button sometimes and it'll roll it up or down for you,
Yeah.
Them first ones wasn't that nice.
No.
Yeah, I can kind of remember them first ones. I do. Yeah. But, I don't know, we still ride a lot. We still ride cattle. I don't ride as much as I used to. Like I say, I'm getting old. I drive pickup a lot around. Point, that boy that come in here a while ago, a point. Tell him I need him to go that way. But yeah, that's technology would be would be different. And the different types of cattle. There's a lot of different types of cattle now. You know, used to be we had Herefords and blacks, and then they got black baldies, you know, and we'd have a few Brammer crosses, but those Mexican cattle we had here at that time, they was all mixed up, different kind. They wasn't very good cattle. Big old raw bone. My dad got a dehorning saw and hooked it to a pickup battery, and we cut all their horns off. The ones that had horns, there was a lot of bulls.
Wow.
We cut. I will say there was a lot of bulls, but coming out of Mexico, I don't know. I guess. I remember he cut a lot of them. My dad did. Cut them horns off, and that's when they got screwworms in them holes in their head. And they had a smear, they called it, and it'd kill the screwworms, and it'd stay on you until you worked it off. We had to rope them and dig them screwworms out, and they'd put that smear in there. It was nasty stuff. Terrible.
Well, half the stuff you used to use was terrible stuff. You know, really.
Syntoxic or
Well, you just,
I was an iodine man. I always used iodine and kerosene.
part of that stuff you used to use, that blue stuff you used to put on, you know, that's what you put the little kids to do, and now they don't even sell it to you.
Wow.
And your kids would come
Right,
in, they'd
you-
be covered in it. You wonder,
EQ 335 and
what
Coral,
did that do to them?
right.
but it was good stuff. It
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
We thought it
yeah.
was, yeah, it worked. That's
It
exactly
worked.
right.
Do you see things nowadays that you use that don't work? That the
Oh,
old
yeah.
stuff works better.
Oh, we still like a lot of the old stuff. This medicine they got nowadays, the bugs, you know, it's just like people. You know, used to be we'd give one a shot of penicillin and you thought you was going to burn him up. Terramycin was, well, it was really hot. Now you can't give them a shot of that. It won't even touch the bugs they have nowadays. Now you have to have all that high dollar medicine, and just like people. I mean, you know, if you get a cold now, they run all that stuff through you, and I mean, it's good, I guess. We do it, so we think it's good.
So you've gone through a couple of droughts, though, even if
Oh,
you
yes,
can't
ma'am.
remember. Which one in your memory has been the worst one for your family?
Well, this last one was tough. We had about 5 years of it, from, I guess, 09 to 14. It was tough. We sold half of our cows. We saved half of our cows, and we sold the rest of them. Probably fed the half up that we kept. You know, we probably fed them up. But we wanted to keep, and we're sure glad we have now. Yeah.
How did you make the decision when to sell or not to sell, or?
Oh, I don't know how to answer that. We just sold the older ones, you know, and the ones that didn't have the biggest kid. You know, we tried to keep the best ones, you know. And if you had a spot where you could run 50 and you had 100, you know, you just had to go in there and kind of be mean and just sort them, you know.
At what point, though, does it take you to get to that point? I mean, is it,
Well,
do you wait
can't-
as long as you can, or do you just?
Yeah, you have to wait as long as you can, thinking it's going to rain. You know, you're just 4 or 5 days away from having grass, you know, if it rains. And then we leave here in the wintertime and go to cornfields with our cows. And we always had that deal. I mean, sometimes it was high, but we could go there, and we had a home. For 4 months we had a home, but then you come home to nothing. Then you had to pour out the cake, you know, and get them to go on, because you can't have a thin cow have a calf, or she won't get up, and she won't suck him, and all that stuff. So you pour out a lot of feed. You do.
Worry about loco.
The local weed. Is the local weed worse when there's drought?
Cattle get on it worse because they don't have anything else to eat. But it come awful bad this year. We had loco as bad as we ever had it. It was really tough. But we had green grass, so we didn't have too many stock, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody got by pretty good. Sure did. Yeah.
And they do other things.
Are there lessons you learned from sort of past drought experiences that helped you through this last
Yeah,
drought?
you know you got to feed them. You can't let your cows get thin, and you just got to feed them, because if you don't, pretty quick you have nothing. Yeah. If a cow gets poor, she can't raise a calf. The calf will suck her right through her tits. They'll suck her right down to nothing. The calf will. You gotta keep some feed in them. You sure do. And, you know, my dad always said that you had to, and I found that to be true. Yeah. It's, sometimes it's expensive when that truck pulls in here. It's expensive, but you just do it because you got to do it. Yeah. Yeah.
Anything else you've learned from dealing with droughts that
Oh,
you maybe even do different in the future?
you know, you just try to take care of some of your country. My dad always tried to keep some of his country didn't graze every year, so that the next year, if it was tough, he could go to that fresh country. You know, and then if it didn't rain, you had a little start, and then you scatter them out and just feed them. You know, and we kind of try to practice that if we can, keep a pasture or two. Sometimes you can't because you gotta make your payments too. You know, they
So you mentioned it's expensive. Did you have other jobs or did you do other things to help pay for the ranching during the rough years?
toll.
Horses.
Yeah, we raise a lot of horses. Of course, we always have. And we got some bucking horses. We haul them to ranch rodeos. And we raised a lot of horses and sold horses. We sold a lot of horses, yeah. Done a lot of that stuff, yeah. Rodeo. There was a time we was fairly decent rodeo. We'd win a little money about everywhere we went. One of us, there's three of us boys went together. My brother, and then we got a kid that we growed up with. His name, he's not a kid no more, but I'm not either. Artie Gordon. We all three growed up together. We rodeoed together. One of us had placed about everywhere we went, so we went a little.
How far did you travel?
All over New Mexico and a bunch of Texas. This side of Oklahoma, and we'd slip up in Kansas every now and then, not much. Colorado, the bottom end of Colorado. Because we always had to be home the next morning to do our work, so we didn't get off too awful far, but sometimes we'd spend, you know, a day or two if there was 3 or 4 rodeos we could get to. And we just went this past weekend, took our bucking horses to Level Land and bucked them 2 nights and made a little money. Yeah. Anything to make a dollar.
Any other jobs you've done besides the rodeo?
Oh, I shot horses when I was in school and college to make money.
So what did you study in college?
Ag business.
Did you ever want to leave this business?
Oh, no. I mean, you know, you might say you did, but you really didn't. No, I don't know no better. I don't know no better. No.
And where did you study?
At Canyon.
Okay.
Down at Canyon.
And now how did you meet your wife?
Oh, her granddad and my dad were partners.
Okay. So have you two known each other since you were little?
Not really. I knew his dad always, but I didn't know that he had kids. I just knew his dad.
Yeah.
He would come and eat. He always ate lunch with my grandmother. Fed whoever came through, you know, and he ate a lot of lunches at my grandmother's house. But I always knew Kelly.
Her granddad had a feed yard up here at Texas. And my dad, he would trade for these strings of cattle, and they'd weigh the calves first. They'd weigh the steer calves first, and then they'd weigh the heifer calves, and then they'd weigh the cows, and then they'd weigh the bulls that they wanted to sell. All this stuff. Well, my dad would buy them all, and he'd send those cows and bulls to her granddad, especially the bulls. A lot of the cows would go other places, but he'd send them loads of bulls to her granddad, and he'd feed them at that feed yard, and they'd partner on them. And that night, the bulls do really good. They do excellent. And that's...
My granddad was more of a farmer.
He was a good farmer.
Do you guys have kids of your own?
Yes,
How many kids you got?
4.
4?
Yeah.
All of them in this area, or are they all kind of?
Oh, there's 2 in Clayton, 1 in Logan, and 1 up in Loveland, Colorado.
And you plan on taking over the family business one day, or?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Are they interested in ranching?
Yep. Yeah, they're really interested. Some of their spouses, don't know much about. Our son isn't even married yet. He knows a lot about it, but he's a school teacher and coaches basketball. So his time's kind of limited what he's got. But when he's loose, he comes and helps me, and he's a good help. The gal in Loveland, Colorado, her husband's IBM. Yeah. So, he's a good kid, but he just don't know about riding and stuff. The girl in Clayton, she doesn't have a husband now. And the one in Logan, her husband's a banker. He can ride and he ropes and does that kind of stuff. And he can come and help us, and would if I needed him. He would. They would. Yeah, all of them would come and help. The girls are good hands. They helped us when they was little guys. Well, I mean, we used them just like little slaves.
Isn't that what
Pretty
kids are
much.
for?
That's why we had them.
I say. Did you send them out on the same type of trips your dad sent you out on?
No,
Point them in a direction and tell them keep going.
no, we didn't do that. They helped us. They did. They helped us do a lot. We did a lot of things. We took our kids was with us. We didn't have babysitters. If they couldn't go, we didn't go. I mean, we was.
That's pretty much why everybody is out here.
Yeah, we just took them with us. I'll never forget one time we left here about this time of year and was driving some cows to cornfields. And we had maybe jackets on, and a snowstorm come up and we was driving them cows across there. And we got about halfway and it got cold and miserable.
No cell phone.
Oh, no cell phones. And she was coming around.
I was supposed to just go pick them up in a little while.
And they said, hurry.
Finally, we got them. We got them kiddos. I had 2 boys working for me. We got them in a dugout and took the saddle blankets off them horses and put around them. And then I got a horseback and went and found her. Had to lope quite a ways to find her. But I mean, it wasn't nobody's fault. It was just an act of nature, They was tough little kids. I mean, they was cold, and when we got to pick up there, they got in the front and got warm. But it just makes you tough, I guess. I don't know.
Nice, good story.
How do you prepare for such extreme weather? You have horrible blizzards here, you have flash flooding, you get drought. So how do you prepare for that?
Oh, after September, you better take your coat with you until April.
And my girls, and I bet Peggy's are the same way. When they have a pantry that you could eat out of for 6 weeks or 2 months if you had to. It may not be what you wanted to eat, but and the girls live in town now, and they always tell me, I buy groceries like you did because I think I don't live by the store. And people don't do that anymore. But what you grow up with, that's what you learn.
Sure.
It is. It's crazy.
Okay. So how have you seen this overall? Let's talk about the community a little bit. How has it changed over the years, and kind of where do you see the future of the area going?
If somebody would have told me 10 years ago that I'd carry a cell phone in my pocket, that somebody could call me anywhere I was at, I'd have said, you're crazy. That's insane. You got to have a wire coming to whatever you're going to talk. And now I don't go anywhere without it. I did for a long time. Cheryl told me, said, what if you all was out there and working and got a horse down on your, and you could have a phone that you could just touch and somebody could come and help you, And it's true. And once you start carrying one, it's just, you're an addict to it. Technology is just, and it's slid by me so far. I'm so far behind.
Well,
You're not the one.
God knows.
we don't.
But, and
We're
we
bad.
don't, and I guess I don't hate it too bad because I miss going and seeing our neighbors. We used to go eat with people and you'd sit down and visit. for half a day. And we're all on watching TV or on
Too busy.
you know, we're just, you know, trying to make a living, I guess, is what we blame it on. But I can remember going to people's houses, people coming, you know, but it's not gonna change. I don't think it's gonna go back to that, no. But we still got the best neighbors, you know.
We try out here, kind of. We
They have a
work
lot
hard.
of activities at our school, and we try to get there. You know, everybody tries to get there when they can. Yeah.
Do you think the next generation will carry on from where you guys leave off with some of the things?
I don't know.
I don't know. They probably want to, but I don't know if they got time. You know, all of our kids live in a town now, except our son. He comes. He's got this house down here by his son. He stays down there some, but they all live in that town. You know, I think our kids, where they growed up here, they don't live in a place where they don't know their neighbors. I think they know their neighbors. You know, but there's a lot of places they don't know their next door neighbor. And I guess they don't really care that they don't know them. I mean, I'd be miserable, you know, but I growed up different than them people. But, you know, I think it's more and more of a trend, you know, you tend to your business and I'll tend to mine, instead of caring. Cheryl's got a sister that lives in California, and he's got a neighbor across the street and down about 3 houses, and when they leave, he goes over there and he tells him, he said, I'm not moving. So if you see a
You see a truck at my house.
truck in my house loaded furniture, you know
That's
it's
not me.
not me.
Not me.
You know, and we see smoke here, and we'll just break our necks trying to get to our neighbor. You know, I mean, and it may just be a trash can, or it may be 25 miles on the other side. You know, but the people care, and if you set a fire, you better call everybody around, because if you don't, they'll be at your house once it's on fire. Fire is really, really bad.
That's as
We
bad as drought.
really fight it. We have a
Scary.
pickup, you know, we have a fire department over here that's good. Boy, I mean, it's all our neighbors, and they come a-running if you have a fire. And we go running a lot too, you know, we try to. But I couldn't say what our next generation's gonna be like, you know.
What do you think the future of agriculture and ranching looks like in Union County?
Oh, you know, another soapbox, and I can get right up on it. You know, our state's got so many regulations on us now. You can't do what you want to. You might own the land, but they tell you what to do with it. And they got some
Bureaucrat.
kid that's went to school and got him an education. It comes and tells you what's best for your land. You know, and I don't know where the limits are. You know, it don't look good to me. They tell you what you can do with it. You know, it's a free, you know, we got free enterprise, and we have freedom of speech, and we have freedom of all this, but they don't let you tell you what, they tell you what to say and what you can do.
And water. Oh,
Water, I mean, water's gonna get to be a serious
that's gonna be
deal.
the big thing.
But,
Water.
right now, you know, you can't just go drill a well. If you need a well, you gotta go get permission from somebody to drill a well on your own land. You know, it just, I guess I'm old, too old. Been seen it when you didn't have to do that. You know, pretty quick, maybe they ain't gonna let you run black cows next to the highway, afraid they'll get out on the road, you know?
Right.
You know, where does it end? You know, you'll have some guy that don't know come here from Sikkim tell you what to do. And then if you build a house or you build something, here they come and you can't do it yourself. They want high dollar wages, and they'll tell you when they're coming to check you out. And I mean, they're arrogant about it. You know, they don't give a dang what you think. They got the power, so they just mash on you. And I don't take mashings very good.
Yeah.
You know, I just hate it. I hate to have some kid with wet behind his ears come and tell me. You know, I do have a little experience. It might not be much, but it sure aggravates.
Do you think there's a future for the family farmer, family ranch?
Yeah. You know, there ain't nobody can run one as good as the people that know it. You know, these corporations, they're, you know, and I'm not gonna cuss them because they're, but they can do everything except the people part of it. You know, they make everything better except, you know, they have trouble keeping people, and they have, you know, people want to get up the line, you know, and nobody wants to just sit there and build what they got and keep it doing it. They want to get way, way ahead. And I can't blame nobody for wanting to do better, you know. But sometimes it might not be better, you know.
Do you think the corporations will actually eventually take over the majority of the small farmers,
Well-
or you think the small farmers can hang in there?
I think they hang in there. I don't think the corporations, a lot of it they don't want. The corporations want you to work for nothing. That's what they want. They want you to make them live, make them whatever you're producing as cheap as you can do it. You know, and they might can do it cheaper than I can do it. You know, I don't think they can right here. But, you know, they have to hire a corporation, if they take over this, say they take over this place here, then they gotta hire somebody to run it. Because them guys can't. They can push the pencil, do the paperwork, but they can't get out here and brand these calves. So they have to hire somebody that might not, you know, he's either out of school, you know, he's got a diploma says he can. But I don't think they're as good hands as what we got around here. Most of these ranches, you know, they're all, and there's a lot of them are bigger corporation type deals. We have some corporations in this community. Good guys, we got some good guys running them, you know. But they went through a lot of them, you know, and the hands change, you know, they change.
Any last comments on maybe what you think the area will be like in, say, 20 years? Or
Oh, I think people still be good people here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'll be good people.
Do you have any advice for the next generation of ranchers and farmers in this that are trying to make a go of things around here?
Oh, you can do it. You can do it. You just got to do it. Just work. It does take a little work. You'll have to sweat a little. Yeah, you'll have to sweat a little.
ride a few miles?
Yeah, you'll have to ride a little ways. Sure you will. But you'll have to sweat. You know, it just takes a little bit of it. It does. And you know, we got a generation now don't know much about work. You know.
They don't know about cooking. They don't know about much. And that's kind of scary.
It
I think
is.
all my kids do. I mean, I know they do, but I don't know about their kids.
We're
if they're
real
going to.
fortunate. We're really fortunate. This community's got lots of good people. A lot of good people, you know, has left here. They have left here, went and found other jobs, but they're still, you know, they still,
Right.
yeah, they still know how to work. And they know what, yeah. And went a long ways. My uncle, he went right to the top at Los Alamos. You know, he was a physicist, helped build them bombs and stuff. You know, he didn't talk about it, but
Right.
you know, he was just a poor boy right here.
Work ethic.
Work. You know, he knew how to work.
Yep.
And somebody asked him when he got his driver's license, and he said, well, when I come back from World War II, he said, I was flying an airplane over there, and he said, I guess they figured I could drive a car if I could fly.
That's the way to do it.
All right. Well, Roy, we appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you.
And you've
Appreciate
surely
it.
been enjoyable. So
Thank you.